I've been turning wrenches on pickup trucks since before most of you were born. 40 plus years in Tennessee. 22 of those as a diesel mechanic. I've seen what kills a truck at 80,000 miles. I've seen what keeps one running past 300,000. And I can tell you right now, most of what dealers tell you is wrong. Most of what the internet tells you is wrong. The manufacturers spend millions making sure you don't know the truth about which trucks actually survive long term. Today I'm going to show you the real data, not opinions, not YouTube takes, documented studies, real engineering facts. We're going to talk about IC cars. We're going to talk about consumer reports. We're going to talk about J.D. Power long-term dependability. And we're going to talk about exactly which truck brand shows up at the top of every single one of those studies. If you've been around trucks your whole life and you want real information, not sales pitches, hit that subscribe button right now. I don't take sponsors. I don't run ads for dealers. Every word I say is based on data and 40 years of experience under a hood. Let me start with a study most people have never heard of. IC Cars is a car research company that analyzes millions of used vehicle sales every year. They published a study looking specifically at vehicles most likely to reach 200,000 miles. They analyzed over 15 million used car sales. That is not a small sample. That is one of the largest data sets on vehicle longevity ever compiled. The Toyota Tundra showed up at the very top of their list. In their research, the Tundra was among the top vehicles for reaching 200,000 miles compared to the industry average. We're talking about a measurable difference, not a rounding error. This is a full-size pickup truck sitting alongside vehicles half its size with half its workload. That number doesn't happen by accident. Now let me tell you why that matters to you. The average American keeps a truck for about 6 years. Most trucks are sold before 100,000 miles. The people who know trucks, the ones who haul equipment, pull trailers year-round, work their vehicles hard, those people need to know what's actually going to last. And the data tells a consistent story. Consumer Reports runs annual reliability surveys. They survey hundreds of thousands of vehicle owners every year. The data is self-reported, which means it reflects real-world experience, not controlled lab conditions. Toyota as a brand has consistently ranked at or near the top of those surveys for decades. Not every single year, not in every single category, but the trend line is clear, and it's been clear for a long time. The Toyota Tundra specifically has received above-average reliability ratings in Consumer Reports data for most of its production years. When you compare it to the Ford F-150, the Ram 1500, and the Chevrolet Silverado on long-term reliability, the Tundra holds its position at the top. That's not me saying it, that's hundreds of thousands of real owners reporting what breaks and what doesn't. J.D. Power runs what they call the Vehicle Dependability Study. It looks at problems per 100 vehicles after 3 years of ownership. The lower the score, the fewer problems. Toyota has historically performed well in this study. The industry average sits around 130 to 150 problems per 100 vehicles, depending on the year. Toyota and Lexus routinely come in below that average. This isn't one good year, this is a consistent pattern across multiple years of data. Now I want to talk about the engineering. Because data without understanding is just numbers. I want you to understand why Toyota builds trucks that last longer. And it comes down to decisions made in the engineering room, decisions that other manufacturers did not make. The Toyota Tundra used the 3UR FE V8 engine from 2007 through 2021. That's a 5.7-liter V8. It is a real truck engine. It uses a timing chain, not a timing belt. This matters enormously. A timing belt needs to be replaced every 60,000 to 90,000 miles, depending on the application. If you miss that service interval, or if the belt fails early, you can destroy the engine. A timing chain is engineered to last the life of the engine. You don't replace it on a schedule. You maintain the oil that lubricates it, and it lasts. The 3URFE runs a timing chain. That is a long-term durability decision. Ford's 5.4-liter Triton V8, which powered the F-150 for years, used a timing chain as well. But it had documented issues with spark plug ejection and cam phaser problems in certain production years. Those aren't opinions. Those are NHTSA complaints and documented technical service bulletins. The engineering difference isn't just in what components are used. It's in how well those components are executed and validated before the truck leaves the factory. The 3URFE also uses an aluminum block with iron cylinder liners. This is a deliberate engineering choice. Pure aluminum cylinders wear faster. Iron liners inside an aluminum block give you the weight savings of aluminum combined with the wear resistance of iron. This is not a new technology. Toyota has been using it because it produces longevity. A truck engine that goes 300,000 miles is using iron where iron belongs. Now let me talk about the older Tundra. The first generation Tundra from 2000 to 2006 used the 4.7-liter 2UZ FE V8. That engine is a legend in truck circles. It is one of the most bulletproof truck engines ever put in a production vehicle. It also uses a timing chain. It also uses iron cylinder liners. It also has a track record of high mileage longevity that is well documented. Find a first-gen Tundra with honest maintenance history and that engine will take you places other truck engines won't. But here's where I have to be straight with you. Because I said this video would be based on real data, and real data includes the bad news too. The 2000 through 2009 Toyota Tundra and Tacoma have documented frame rust issues. This is not a rumor. Toyota issued a frame rust recall. NHTSA investigated. Toyota extended warranties and bought back vehicles with severely rusted frames. If you live in the Rust Belt, anywhere that uses road salt heavily, this is a real problem with a specific model year range. A truck with a great engine and a rotting frame is not a 300,000-mile truck. It's a problem waiting to happen. If you're buying a used Tundra from those model years and you live in a salt state, you need to get under that truck with a flashlight. You need to look at the frame rails, the cross members, and the mounting points for the suspension. Don't let a dealer show you under there in a dark lot. Put it on a lift in daylight. This issue is documented, it is real, and it affects real trucks on the road right now. The 2010 and newer Tundra addressed many of these frame rust concerns. Toyota changed the anti-corrosion treatment on the frame. The problem did not vanish overnight, but the severity dropped significantly. If you're buying used for long-term durability, 2010 and up is where I'd start my search on a Tundra. Now let me talk about what actually separates a 300,000-mile truck from a 100,000-mile truck. Because even the best engineered truck will die early if you treat it wrong. And this is where most truck owners fail completely. Oil change intervals are the first thing. The manufacturer says one thing. Dealers sometimes say another. The chemistry of your oil tells the truth. In normal driving conditions, a conventional oil in a gasoline engine needs to be changed every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Modern full synthetic oils can go longer. Some manufacturers specify 7,500 or even 10,000 miles under normal conditions. But here's what matters. Towing heavy loads, hauling equipment, driving in dusty conditions, or making lots of short trips all count as severe service. Under severe service, you cut those intervals in half. Most truck owners don't do that. They tow every weekend and change oil every 7,500 miles and wonder why their engine is worn at 150,000 miles. The 3URFE in the Tundra responds extremely well to synthetic oil and proper intervals. I've seen these engines go past 250,000 miles with healthy compression when the owner changed oil every 5,000 miles without fail. I've seen them start burning oil at 120,000 when the owner skipped intervals or ran conventional oil through heavy towing cycles. The engine doesn't lie. The oil tells the story. Transmission fluid is the second thing most people ignore until it's too late. The automatic transmissions in full-size trucks, including Toyota's A750F and A760F 6-speeds used in the Tundra, have a fluid that degrades over time. Toyota technically lists some transmission fluid as lifetime fill for normal use. That phrase has killed a lot of transmissions. Under towing conditions, transmission fluid breaks down faster. The fluid gets hot. Heat is the enemy of transmission fluid viscosity. Degraded fluid means worn clutch packs and burned solenoids. Change your transmission fluid every 60,000 miles if you tow. Every 30,000 if you tow heavy regularly. This is not the dealer's recommendation. This is what I've seen keep transmissions alive for 200,000 miles. Differential fluid is the third one. Front diff, rear diff. If your truck has four-wheel drive, you've got both. These differentials use gear oil that breaks down over time just like transmission fluid. The factory service interval for most trucks is somewhere around 30,000 miles for severe service. Most truck owners never change differential fluid at all, ever. I've pulled differentials apart on trucks with 80,000 miles on them that still had the factory fill in there. That fluid was black, it was thick, it smelled like burned metal. The gears inside looked like someone had taken sandpaper to them. Change your differential fluid. It costs almost nothing compared to what a differential rebuild or replacement costs. Transfer case fluid is in the same category. If you use four-wheel drive, especially if you use 4-low regularly for heavy off-road or recovery work, your transfer case fluid needs attention. This is one of the most overlooked fluids on a four-wheel drive truck. The transfer case sits in the middle of the drivetrain, and nobody thinks about it until it starts whining. By then, the damage is already done. Every 30,000 miles under hard use, period. Timing chain tension on the 3URFE is something I want to address directly. The chain itself is built to last, but the tensioners, the hydraulic components that keep the chain tight, depend on oil pressure and oil cleanliness to function properly. An engine that runs low on oil or runs dirty oil will have tensioners that don't function at peak performance. Over time, a loose chain causes wear on the guides and on the chain itself. This is not a theoretical problem. It is a documented failure mode on high-mileage engines that were not maintained properly. Keep your oil clean and full. Keep your tensioners happy. Keep your chain alive. Now let me talk about dealer service records, because I hear truck owners say this all the time. It's got a full dealer service record. They say it like that means the truck was maintained correctly. It does not mean that. Dealers perform the services that customers pay for. They perform the services that the manufacturer recommends. In many cases, what the manufacturer recommends for quote-unquote normal service intervals does not account for how real truck owners actually use their trucks. A dealer that changes your oil on schedule and calls it good has not told you to change your differential fluid, has not told you to change your transfer case fluid, has not told you to cut your transmission fluid interval in half because you tow. The full dealer service record is not a guarantee of mechanical health. It is a record of minimum required maintenance, nothing more. I've seen trucks with spotless dealer service records come into the shop with differentials that were destroyed. I've seen trucks with handwritten receipts from small shops live past 250,000 miles because the owner knew what they were doing and did it consistently. The paper trail doesn't tell you what fluids were actually in the truck. It tells you what the invoice said. Trust the mechanic who can put it on a lift. Trust the data from compression tests and fluid analysis. Don't trust the service sticker. Let me give you some honest context on the competition, because this isn't about bashing Ford or GM or Ram. Those are American trucks built by American workers, and they have legitimate engineering behind them. The Ram 1500 with the 5.7-liter Hemi has a loyal following for a reason. That engine makes good power, and it's been in production long enough that mechanics know it well. But the multi-displacement system, the cylinder deactivation technology, has had documented issues with lifter failures in certain production years. NHTSA complaints and technical service bulletins exist on this. It is a real issue that affects real trucks. On a Ram that doesn't have those issues and is maintained properly, you can get solid miles out of a Hemi. But the long-term reliability data in consumer reports does not put Ram at the top. The Ford F-150 EcoBoost, the turbocharged V6 that took over as Ford's primary engine, is a capable engine. It makes strong power and decent fuel economy for a truck, but turbocharged engines add complexity. Turbochargers rely on clean, pressurized oil to survive. A turbo running on degraded oil will fail well before 200,000 miles. The carbon buildup issue on direct-injected turbocharged engines is also real. It's a documented phenomenon that requires walnut blasting or chemical cleaning over time. The 5.7 Tundra V8 has none of these turbo-related failure modes. It is a naturally aspirated engine, less complexity, fewer failure points. The GM 5.3-liter V8 in the Silverado and Sierra is a proven engine. It's been around a long time, and in its base form, it's a reasonably durable unit. The AFM, Active Fuel Management, GM Cylinder Deactivation System, has documented issues with oil consumption and lifter failure in certain applications and model years. Many GM truck owners have had the AFM system deleted or disabled to avoid long-term problems. A modified truck is not a stock truck. When you start disabling systems to preserve reliability, that's telling you something about the original design. I'm not telling you Toyota is perfect in every category. I'm telling you what the data shows on long-term reliability and high-mileage survival. The data consistently shows Toyota, and specifically the Tundra, at the top of those measurements. That's the story the numbers tell. Here's what 300,000 miles actually looks like in practice. I know guys, real working men in Tennessee and Kentucky and Alabama, who are running Tundras with that kind of mileage. Working trucks, trucks that haul, trucks that tow, not babied, not garage queens. One guy I know has a 2004 Tundra with the 4.7 V8. He's a cattle farmer. That truck has towed trailers, hauled feed, run through mud and creek crossings. It has never had a major engine failure. He changes his oil. He keeps up with his fluids. That engine still has good compression at well over 200,000 miles. That is not an accident. Another guy I know bought a 2012 Tundra off a work site, used it as a work truck for 8 years. Changed oil himself, changed transmission fluid every 60,000 miles because he towed consistently, changed diff fluid on schedule. That truck is still running, still towing. He's passed 240,000 miles and not thinking about replacing it. That truck will hit 300,000. The maintenance record is written on the parts inside the engine. The data on those parts is honest. The dealers don't want you to know this. If you buy a truck that lasts 300,000 miles, you're not coming back to buy a new one every 5 years. Planned obsolescence is real. The goal of a manufacturer who wants repeat business is not to build you a truck that lasts forever. The goal is to build a truck that lasts just long enough to seem reliable and then needs replacing. Toyota has figured out that building a reputation for reliability is worth more long-term than selling replacement trucks. That's a business decision, and it happens to be good for you as a buyer. So here's what I want you to take away from all of this. If you're buying a truck for long-term use, if you plan to keep it 200,000 or 300,000 miles, the data points to the Toyota Tundra. Specifically, I'd look at 2010 and newer to avoid the frame rust issues. The 3URFE 5.7 V8 is the engine you want. Get a pre-purchase inspection from an independent mechanic. Check the frame. Check compression. Pull a fluid sample if you can. If you own a Tundra right now and you want to get 300,000 miles out of it, the path is clear. Change your oil every 5,000 miles with full synthetic. Change your transmission fluid every 60,000 miles. Every 30,000 if you tow heavy. Change your differential fluids and transfer case fluid on the same schedule. Don't rely on dealer service records to tell you the full story. Learn your truck. Pay attention to what it needs. The engine will reward that kind of care. If you're running a Ford or a Ram or a GM truck, do the same thing. The maintenance principles don't change. Clean fluids at proper intervals are the foundation of a high-mileage truck, regardless of what badge is on the grill. But if longevity is your primary concern and you're starting from scratch, the data says Toyota. That's not an opinion I'm giving you. That's what happens when you look at 15 million vehicle sales and count the trucks that made it. I've spent my career fixing what breaks and keeping alive what shouldn't have made it this far. The trucks that last all have one thing in common. The owner understood that a truck is a machine. A machine needs maintenance, not the bare minimum on a sticker from the dealer. Real maintenance, done on real intervals with real attention to how the truck is actually being used. If this is the kind of straight talk you want, no sponsors, no fluff, just real data and real experience, subscribe and stick around. I've got more coming on which model years to avoid, what to look for in a used truck inspection, and how to read service records the right way. Real information for real truck owners. The data doesn't lie, and now you know what it says.